Rodman.
Eric.
Welcome, everyone, to the Xhale podcast. I'm your host, Eric Xhale, your hostess with the mostest, a.k.a. Finding Nemo. I'm here with our other host, Rodman Lees. We are going to have it was started off kind of having a plan, and now the plan has just gone out the window. We actually have a special guest with us today. I'd like a warm welcome for Kevin Mehaffey.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We're just going to drag him in here. I apologize. We're going to have to cover a couple of our... maybe we can leave it. I was going to say we're going to cover some sponsors, but we're not going to do that. And speaking of sponsors, I'd like to go ahead and give a shout out to our sponsors, one being Ballast Freediving. They make some awesome gear. If you want to check them out, you can see them at one of our other sponsors, Florida Freedivers. Check them out as well. Awesome retail location in North Palm Beach. Spearfishing
and on the web.
And on the web, flfreedivers.com. If you need some stuff, they got it. Spearfishing, freediving, you name it, whatever you need.
There you go. Good evening, Aaron.
And Teach Me to Freedive, an FII sanctioned freedive instruction agency. So if you're looking to get into some freediving, dive longer, safer, hit them up as well. You can find them on Instagram. You can also get courses through them at Florida Freedivers. All right, let's get into it. Kevin, welcome to the Xhale podcast. A longtime listener, an OG fan, so to speak.
OG.
Long-time listener, first-time guest.
There we go.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, we are loving having you here so far. I feel like we've already done a podcast.
Yeah.
We've talked enough.
It was a pre-podcast.
Yeah, there you go. Warm-up round.
We're live now, though, so now's when it counts.
Round 1 and now round 2. Let me double-check the web here that we are indeed live. We are. Sweet. What do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about spearfishing.
Spearfishing?
Yeah, summer recap, spearfishing, trying to get to the Gulf Coast for winter. You know, what's your winter strategy? Mine's to go to the Gulf Coast as much as possible. That's what I'm hoping to do. Is make it to the Gulf Coast.
We went. What time of year did we go last year?
I think it was March.
We did an episode on it. You can look back and listen to our tall tales of what happened on that trip.
And it was like a comedy of errors, like planes, trains, and automobiles. Nothing went right. Conditions were, I would say, fair. They were kind of what I was expecting. Long run for bad visibility. But the guys that we were diving with that are from the Gulf Coast, they were saying that it was like a 9 out of 10, the worst conditions that they dive in. And not that they're bad divers, it's just that they're spoiled. For me, it was like a 4 at the most. You know, like it was like
the only bad part was that it was raining the whole time.
Yeah,
you know, it wasn't like real rough. And again, we were in a little bit of a smaller boat, so it was noticeably choppy, but it wasn't like bad.
Yeah, the rain will lay it down for you too.
Yeah, and it wasn't like raining cats and dogs. It was like drizzling. But to say that it was rough, you think that boat was 23 feet?
I think it was 20. Was it a 25?
So let's call it a 25. We ran 90 miles.
I think it was a 23.
There's no way if it was that bad we would have ran 90 miles. You know, we would have called it way before that. It wasn't that bad. Viz was terrible. I was shooting a 120. I was way overgunned for that. By the time I could swing that thing around, we were going for gag grouper and we saw a ton of them. But by the time I could swing that thing, they'd spook. Because you basically see them when they'd spook. You know, the Viz was so bad, if they were just laying in the sand, which is kind of their style, they blended right in. So I assembled a didn't build it.
We built a handle for it.
I built a handle for it.
You can check that out in another episode as well.
Yeah.
Building custom handles.
Built a handle for it. But yeah, it's a 60 roller that I like special built after that trip just for like deep, crappy Viz diving. And I'm fired up to use it. So this winter, I'm gonna be trying to get over there as much as possible. If you guys want to come with us, if any listener out there wants to come, we're going to be putting a trip together to do it. We probably only have 2 spots realistically to do it.
Guess we need a bigger boat.
You need a pop filter on that mic.
Yeah.
Keep going. Just keep talking.
All right. So we really probably have 2 spots for it, but we're just gonna try to split up costs. If anybody wants to go, comment YouTube. Try to hit us up on social media on Instagram. Let us know if you're interested, and we will put one together. As far as this stuff goes, it's typically a little bit short notice, just as far as weather windows and fish go.
Oh, man.
Okay.
You can handle the rest of that.
I got it from here. Thank you.
Sick.
All right. No more popping. There we go.
So a 60, is that your go-to golf size gun?
That's going to be it from now. So I have used it. I haven't used it in the Gulf yet. So been over here. The visibility has been pretty good. The tricky part with the Gulf, at least where when we were diving it, was you needed to be able to swing it quickly, but you still needed about, give or take a couple feet, about 12 feet of range.
So that's the roller.
So that's where the roller comes in. So you needed a quick gun that still had the range to reach out and touch stuff.
So you're now a believer in the roller.
Oh yeah. So I'm a believer in the roller for sure. I am very particular over how it's set up though. The difference between a well set up roller and a and I don't want to say off the shelf because there are a few companies that do it right, but one that's just
Not many.
Not many.
Would you say that most are underpowered?
I would say that most are underpowered. I would say that most are only marginally better, if at all better, than a standard gun. And there's a couple factors.
If at all.
If at all.
Not to steal your conversation. I see a lot of companies make up for a lack of power, which is a result of a bad setup with a kicker band. So you see a lot of companies throwing a kicker band on a gun and then setting that gun up to shoot well with a kicker band so that when you switch it to a single band, it no longer shoots like it should.
Yeah.
As a result. So I have seen that on a lot of guns.
Which was basically my old setup.
Yes. Yes. Which you originally, I'm putting the timeline together now. Well, pretty much the first time that we met you had purchased a roller gun, a custom roller gun.
Correct.
And you had bought it through the store, kind of.
I did.
And was that the first roller gun that you ever had? The first roller gun you shot? What got you into it is what I'm getting at. Into the rollers.
The Rob Allen with a Mantis roller head on it, which had the kicker band.
I do remember that gun.
But it was not at all set up right. It was not tensioned nearly right. It had that kicker band.
And it was scary, dude.
It was a little sketch, but I made it work, man. For about 2 or 3 years, I probably used that gun. That was my go-to, man.
Nice. Which, honestly, using that gun 2 or 3 years before, I even met you, like that, not many people were running with the roller guns at that time.
Picked that gun up used, and I ran with it.
Nice.
Those Mantis rollers blew up. That was before Florida Freedivers for sure was selling rollers. And really before any of my buddies were using them, those Mantis kits were super popular. And they're not terrible, but they weren't, I wouldn't say ideal either.
Yeah, they're not terrible. They're a bushing roller, which we've talked about before, the differences between bushings and bearings and like that.
You want bearings.
You want bearings.
To recap that.
Again, I feel like the third time I've said this. We have a whole episode on roller guns that we go over that kind of setup. But it's a bushing gun. It's got very small diameter rollers on it, which is less than ideal. But at the time, that was pretty much the only thing out there. Those, like you said, when people really first started getting into rollers, that was the only muzzles that I even knew of, that I had even heard of, besides the Bouchot Revolution, which was over $1,000, basically a over $1,000 rail gun, and that nobody really shot those because they were so expensive. But yeah, the Mantis got it done when rollers were first taken off in the States. They'd been around for a while, obviously.
Yeah, no, and I credit them and then the MVD for making rollers as popular, at least in South Florida, as they are now.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for them, they really were the ones that got the word out. And I mean, for better or worse, you know, it got people fired up on it. People started doing research, finding guys like Chris Coates and people that have put a lot of time and testing and science more than I ever want to do. But I'll definitely stand on those guys' shoulders and use their research to see like maybe there's better options out there.
Yeah.
You know, bigger pulleys with bearings, where the band anchors are as close to the notches on the shaft as possible. Pretension's like 400%, and there's a bump stop on the
bump stop
risers. The bump stop is key.
One thing I do want to add on top of, you know, we've talked about roller gun setups before, and this is going to go for any gun setup, whether it's standard roller or whatever. There's definitely standards that work really well. For example, with the roller guns, bearings, 400% stretch, the wishbone bump stop. Is that what we called it?
Bump stop.
Let's go with bump stop.
Bump stop, the muzzle bump stop. You know, there's a setup that works for roller guns really well. That does not mean that is the proper setup for everyone. You got to like find the setup that works best for each person. You know, just because I shoot a 120, or actually I don't shoot a 120, but just because I shoot a 95 roller at 400% stretch with XXX and 7mm shaft and whatever, that doesn't mean that is the perfect setup. That doesn't mean that's a setup for you. I think it's one of the best setups. Like, I know how I like my gun set up. I've shot it. I know what works well with that gun, but everyone's a little bit different. Not everybody's looking for maximum performance out of their gun. If you want a hand-loadable gun, you can tone down your band stretch a little bit. You're not going to get as much power out of it, but it's doable.
I disagree.
All right.
I definitely disagree. So if you want a hand loadable gun, in my opinion, don't get a roller. If you're gonna get a roller, you want blistering performance. You want to shoot it and be like, dang, that's the craziest gun I've ever shot. That's amazing. If you are okay with like, I am just marginal performance, which like my favorite gun is a Rob Allen green handle with literally one band on it. That's my favorite gun, and I've shot everything from like
not just a single 5/8 band.
Yeah, a single 5/8 band.
Just clarify that when it's not a single 3/4.
No, a single 5/8 band, and I've shot Kingfish with that, and I've shot Little Snapper with that, and I freaking love that gun. I'm not expecting that gun to shoot balls out.
Yeah.
I am
stoned to Kingfish with it.
Stoned to Kingfish with it.
Nonetheless.
Thank God, because that 1.5/8 band wasn't penetrating all the way through. But
that thing, did it even get past the flopper?
Did it need to?
No, I'm not saying it did. It was just like,
no,
that was a cool.
It's because they're point and shoot, man. It lands.
Exactly. I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that gun. I think different setups are good for different people, but if you want a hand loadable gun, go with a standard gun. If you want a roller, set it up right. Because if not, you're paying more than you should, and you're putting all sorts of like mechanical potential issues in there. You're buying a ton of band material that you don't need. There's like, it's just more of a hassle. You know, if you don't want that performance, get a standard gun. And there's nothing wrong with a standard gun. Standard guns are freaking awesome. Like I said, my favorite gun is a standard gun.
Yeah. I do. So I think there's a couple advantages even sticking with the roller across the board. I'm comfortable saying that I will probably never own a standard gun again. And given, you know how I like my roller guns, like maximum chooch, right? Yeah. I'm not playing it down. You got me on that. I don't want a hand loadable gun. I want as much performance as possible. That's why I shoot a 95 centimeter gun for just about everything, whether it's reef to blue water, whatever. Mm-hmm. I use the same gun for everything. However, you can still, there's other advantages to a roller that I see as more so than just the power, that I see as being a benefit, even if you tone the power down to being hand loadable. And when I say hand loadable, I'm not saying it's easy. It ain't easy. But we're talking still above 350%. So between 350, 380 seems to be a popular stretch ratio for hand loading guns.
Does that change at all based on shaft diameter?
I don't have an answer for that. I think that's more.
So
generally, yeah. If you go up in shaft diameter, you're probably going to want more power with it.
Right. What I would do, like me personally, is I would keep it about that same stretch, but I would change if you're going to change your shaft size, I would change your band size. So on like a roller, if you're using a 7mm shaft and you're a 110 or lower, so maybe a 100 or lower, I would do 9/16 bands. If you're shooting a 7.5 or you're a 110 and up, I would do 8mm bands or 5/16 bands.
What?
Is that 5/8? 5/8.
Yeah. It's all, like you said, it's scalable, right? So as you go up in gun length, as you go up in shaft diameter, all those things relate to one another. That's why, in one example, more so what I was getting at was saying that every person has a setup that they prefer, whether that's the best setup or the setup that works for them. For example, like Kevin's 120 roller, I would normally suggest a 7.5 shaft with any 120 roller gun. I think it's going to be, in general, a better option. It's definitely going to be a little bit slower. It's definitely going to have a little more shaft drop. That's the nature of going with a larger diameter shaft. But Kevin preferred his gun with a 7mm shaft because he liked the speed from it, wasn't getting any shaft with it, wasn't necessarily an accuracy issue. It was still felt it had plenty of power. So that's more what I was getting at as far as setup goes. But getting back to what I was saying about like advantages of the roller gun for lower power setups as well. You're still only loading one band, right? So you're going to have more power in a single banded roller that's hand loadable than a single banded 5/8 gun. No matter, unless you're running the same stretch ratio as a standard gun, which, you know, getting into like the 200s, 250, and no recoil. Like you said, you were saying that it adds a little complexity and, you know, chances for failure. I think guns are they're built well enough nowadays. I think there's enough like standardization of the parts for roller guns that there's really not a reliability issue with any of them. So I think there is definitely advantages for, you know, I think there's a setup for everyone. Just depends on what you're doing.
Yeah,
like I said, I'm running 400.
Yeah.
My gun's at 420 right now, or 425, something like that.
Jesus Christ.
It's at like the edge of not stretching.
Yeah.
It's a lot stronger than he looks.
Yeah.
Hey, it's technique.
I was just going to say, it's a lot of technique. Do you ever use that bridle on it, or do you always do load assist?
Always load assist. The band I have set up.
Load assist. I've used guns that have that bridle.
Yeah.
I feel like you're not going to get them a high enough % stretch only using that bridle.
Yeah. That's getting it. Like the really, bridle is what I'm saying is a hand loadable gun.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not saying like band coming out that you can load.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have pretty long arms, so I can almost make it work. But if you really want to have it set up like the way you have my 120 set up, I don't think you could do it with a bridle. No way. You need that.
That gun's almost, for me, I mean, you have longer arms than I do. That gun's almost impossible for me to load with the load assist. I mean, it
takes a little technique, but
that gun's tough.
I've gotten it dialed in to
nice.
the more times you reload it.
Yeah, I mean, you get used to any gun, right?
It's
just a matter of, the first 5 times you go out with it, you're gonna be like, wow, shit.
The range on that thing
I think I bit off more than I could chew.
The range on that thing is pretty impressive. I'd call it about 18 foot accurate shots. I mean, you're
effective range.
Right.
Yeah.
To actually penetrate, maybe not completely through. I guess the last group I shot did not go all the way through. So that's shooting line length
and
maxing out,
and shot placement too. Like all that plays in. You know,
I'm usually probably not
get her in the head. You know, like it's.
I'm sure you shot it straight through the tail like you do most stuff.
No, it was actually I think it was a heart shot.
You shoot everything but wahoo in the tail.
Yeah, it's not a gut shot. It's a heart shot.
Yeah, it was a heart shot. That one actually tore off, hold up, and as I'm breathing up to go search for him.
This is a pretty good story. Just start it from the beginning.
All right, so
lay it out there.
We're doing a little drift. I'll skip where we're at. We found some amazing visibility and found a pretty good looking cave ledge. Figured I'd go check it out. Tons of life, bait fish everywhere, and kind of approached this cave, this ledge, and found a nurse shark, sleeping nurse shark hanging out in there. And hanging out behind the nurse shark was it's probably about a 25 pound black grouper, and thought he had a nice back door to sneak out of. Was able to whip the 120 and land what I think was a heart shot. He did a little loop around, found a little hole to try to hide. I made the rookie mistake of trying to get the fish in all in one dive, horsed it out of the hole, shaft pulled out. Luckily, I knew where he was at. A couple great divers went down and found out where he was at. By the time I was recovering on the surface, I watched the grouper fall out of the hole, kind of get that white look to him, dead on the bottom, swam down and recovered the fish.
They didn't even shoot him. You just grabbed him, huh?
There's a little more to the story. There was a second shot put in the fish by another diver.
All right.
A little bit too close for comfort. I was in the process of grabbing him, and the other diver decided to secure the fish with a shot, which he was like dead. Yeah. Laying there.
If you see a fish fall sideways out of a hole that he was previously tucked up and locked in,
yeah, he had given up at that point. And I was a pretty good video that goes with it, but choose not to share that one.
You don't have to get fully into it. If you don't.
All right, yeah, we'll leave it out. He made the decision, which to shoot. I would rather not even get the fish at that point than somebody take a shot. I will never point my gun in the direction of anybody intentionally. It's a gun, and I don't think enough spearfishermen treat it as a gun. You know, don't point at anything that you don't want to kill.
For sure, I
see
see
that
that
can definitely kill someone.
Yeah, I see that a lot when loading. Yeah. So loading especially, people will like be vertical in the water and go to like load their gun and be pointing at like freaking straight at somebody. That one's like
loading. And I got two more for you. Everybody's floating on the surface with their gun pointed down, and as their buddy is ascending, they don't pay enough attention to where the gun is pointing. Maybe take a little care to point it away. And as you're ascending and you're the diver, some people will swim with their gun pointed up, and now you're pointing it at your safety. That's your safety.
That's
probably
like
don't want to shoot them.
One of my biggest pet peeves. When I see somebody do that, I'm like, you do that again, you're not getting back in the water. Like, that's ridiculous. Do not swim up, especially like they're holding it next to their face. Like spear tips right here, and they're swimming up like this. Like, yeah, I'm coming up. Watch out for me.
Yeah, on my descent, I'm body tucked in the gun, trying to hide the profile, but it's pointed down, away from my safeties. And ascending, I'm gunned down. Especially if you have any kind of loss of motor control, you don't want to be putting now your safety who's coming in to help you in
for sure
range. So yeah, there's definitely some good practices that I'd like to see more people get into. I've been pretty fortunate lately to dive with some guys who take safety very seriously.
Well, the coolest, I try to explain it in all my classes too, is as you get into it and you start diving with people that are more and more into it, whether they're like big on Instagram or just big locally or whatever it is, it's very easy. I can quickly tell like the rank amateur from like the grizzly veteran by how seriously they take safety. And I can tell that in a dive or two of like how experienced these people are. I don't care if it's on, like Cameron Cronell, Ryan Myers, and people that you hear about on social media or whatever. Anybody that lands a lot of fish takes safety very seriously. There's no one that's just throwing it out there like, oh, we're just here to have fun. Those guys aren't. If you're either taking it all seriously or you're not taking it seriously at all, is my experience.
Absolutely, and like you said, we are doing it for fun at the end of the day. I mean, we're getting food out of it, but it's not going to be any fun if you got to go home and tell someone's family that somebody got seriously injured or worse. So I mean, I think it's also contagious. I mean, on the way out, it's you can set the tone, especially if you're not diving with guys you normally dive with, and it's contagious. I've pretty quickly gotten the reputation with my dive buddies as the safety. I take it pretty seriously, but it's absolutely contagious. If sure. Everybody's going their own way chasing fish, it's acceptable. But if Eric is surfacing and I'm right on him, he's going to be a lot more likely to try to do the same for me. So I think it's contagious.
And it's contagious in the other way around as well. That might have been.
Yeah, but I won't dive with those guys.
Yeah, but my example of that is I did a trip to Andros, Bahamas, which I think we talked about in a previous episode. Anyway, and the guys I was diving with are great people, excellent divers. I mean, very, very talented divers from like a depth and technicality standpoint. Like they're extremely talented divers. They can dive very deep, really long bottom times, excellent spear fishermen, but not safe divers. So there's 3 of us that were capable of diving over 40 feet, let's say. So when we were diving like all the 60, 70, 80 foot areas, there was just no safety. I mean, the 2 of them would spread out. They'd be so far away from each other and nowhere near myself as well, that it just became like...
You're solo hunting at that point.
At a certain point, I was just like, well, I guess this is how it's going. Not that I'm like a proponent of doing that by any means. I'm not saying to do that in that situation. I wish I had handled it differently. I wish I had like been more adamant about one of them staying with me, because that's how I dive. That's how I'm comfortable diving. But I didn't. And as a result, I was diving by myself. And
yes,
if something happened, I wouldn't be here doing this episode.
Yeah.
So
there's a right way, I think, to go about it. You don't have to come across as telling people what to do.
Yeah.
Although Tommy is pretty good about that. He'll, and he's put me in my place before. I mean, sometimes you get in the hunt and you may forget about it for a minute. But I know I can't dive well if I'm coming up and you make one dive, push yourself a little bit, and you come up and your safety's not there. My next dive, I'm not pushing myself.
Yeah.
So I mean, sometimes you just have to tell your buddies, hey man, this is how we're doing it.
Yeah, there's 2 ways that I typically go about especially on a new boat, going about like setting the tone. And the first one is, as we're riding out, I do like have like a safety brief, and it is so quick that I think it just blindsides people, but at the same time it's effective. And it's, all right, guys, we're going to go out and have fun. I just want to do a quick safety brief. Cool. And before anyone can say, like, what? It's, hey, we're going to stay within arm's reach of each other. One buddy up, one buddy down. Make sure that you're signaling that you're okay. And then safety's waiting 30 seconds before they go diving, right? We're following those 4 rules. God forbid any of us have a lost motor control or blackout. You're done diving, right? Everyone's driving the boat. Everyone's cool with that. Everyone says, all right, cool. That's 50% effective, maybe. What seals the deal, or what sends it into like better, is I start safetying people, and if they're bad with safety, I start like over safetying them. So instead of being like within arm's reach, I'm like within elbow's reach when they come up, and I'm coaching them like breathe on like their recovery breaths, making sure that like everybody's on it. So,
you do that to me all the time. What are you trying to say?
He cares about you, man. Yeah. He cares about you.
So I'm trying to set that tone, and then when I come up, I'll just be like staring at them, and they're all of a sudden they'll realize like, oh yeah, breathe, and I'm like, all right, like motion them closer to me, and it only takes one or 2 dives, and I can kind of pick out the people that like I am out of the group. It sounds weird, but out of the group, either the person that's the most serious, or the person that's most experienced with me, or the person that's least experienced. So the least experienced person, they're maybe a little bit nervous. So if they know that if I'm safetying them a lot, that they're going to safety me back. So, and it doesn't take, as long as they're following those 4 rules, they pretty much have you. They follow those 4 rules and keep your face dry. They've mitigated 90% of the risks of free diving. Or the most experienced person, because they've seen blackouts, they've seen lost motor controls. They know, like, this is something to take seriously. So that's my little strategy. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. I've definitely been in Eric's position where I've done it, and I'm like, breathe. And people are like, what are you doing, man? Like,
those are probably the guys who haven't taken a course. I mean, I don't know what your stance is on diving with guys who have not taken a course. I've come from a background of many years of diving, not taking a course, diving alone, to now, like, I really only want to dive with guys who take it seriously, who, we're having fun. It's not like we're so serious we're not having fun, but you want to come home at the end of the day,
Absolutely. And it's like wearing a seatbelt. If I'm driving to work in the morning, I'm taking 95, I'm wearing a seatbelt. Does that mean that I'm running 15 minutes late and I'm Tokyo drifting the turns and trying to like, come in all hot, taking chances? No. I give myself plenty of time to get to work. I show up half an hour early to work. I'm using my blinker, basically doing the speed limit because my car is slow as freaking molasses.
I get it.
But I'm still wearing my
Fifth
seatbelt.
gear doing $5,000.
Yeah, pretty much. And 50. 50 miles an hour in fifth gear doing 5K. Yeah, not great. I'm doing 13 miles a gallon. But it's slow, but it gets me where I need to go. But I'm still wearing a seatbelt on it. And that's what those safety protocols are doing. I'm not diving like I'm pushing it. We need to be super safe. It's I'm still diving within my limits. I'm not really pushing it, but having a safety there who's within arm's reach, who's waiting 30 seconds before their dive, that's my seatbelt.
I like your take on having a little briefing, a little plan. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a lot, but I've been out even recently with 5 guys who are all certified, great divers, safe divers, but you get 4 guys in the water and maybe it wasn't clear on who's safetying who, and all of a sudden you get people making drops at the same time and not so much watching, where it only takes a second to say, hey, Rodman, you and I, let's pair up. I'll safety you. And it's a lot more controlled when you have a plan. So I think taking a minute, just, hey, let's pair up. We'll safety each other. We already know what to do, but just taking that second to say, hey, we're together. They're together.
For sure. I heard a statistic the other day that freedive spearfishing is the second most dangerous sport in the world, only behind base jumping. And the problem with that...
Who came up with that?
Somebody told me.
Scientist.
The internet.
Google. Must be true.
I would encourage people to Google it.
I feel like there's not enough statistics out there on freedive spearfishing.
Dan does a lot of statistics, man.
True. Is that where it came from? Maybe
if
not.
I say yes,
Google
make
it.
it more believable.
It's not that I don't think it's believable. I was just like...
But let's say it's somewhere in that general vicinity of being dangerous. It's a freaking shame because it is so easy to mitigate the risks.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all preventable.
It's all preventable. All low oxygen, like hypoxic events, are so easily avoidable. And not from diving less hard, but just from having a buddy who's one up, one down, within arm's reach, sitting with their cane, waiting 30 seconds. That, and they can keep your face dry. That is the safety of freediving. Like, if you can do, those, let's call it 5 things, you've mitigated 90% risk. And then if you can dive 15 feet, you've mitigated 99% of the risks of freediving. 99%. That's insane. It's insane. Compare that to scuba, where it's, legit dangerous and out of your control.
I come from a scuba background, even though I don't want to admit it. Mm-hmm. and I've had way more scares.
We're going to have to ask you to leave the podcast right now.
Sorry, guys.
No,
I finally realized.
Leave the beer.
Yeah. I was a scuba instructor for a long time, and when I was working out in Hawaii, we were super busy, right? With all tourists, so you get, we were taking out like 100 people a day. So it's huge numbers, but we gave CPR 7 times in 11 months, where that just doesn't happen freediving, although people do get hurt freediving. And that's not, are there dangers that you can't control freediving? Of course, people get separated, there's sharks, which is like a whole nother
That's a whole nother podcast.
It's a whole nother podcast, but
Bottom line is, get out and take a course. Do your research. Figure out where's there a facility near you, and take a freedive course.
I think it's going in, at least from my perspective, it's going in a really positive direction as far as people being way more open to taking courses.
Definitely. I'm seeing more people now in the past few years people who are traditionally like super stubborn on taking courses, like have been diving their whole lives, but are stubborn on taking a course because they think they're too good for it, essentially, but are still unsafe divers. I see a lot more of that kind of person coming in and taking the course, and they always have an excuse of why they're there. Like, oh, well, my girlfriend wanted to take it, and she wasn't going to take it if I didn't, so here I am. Yeah. But at least they're there,
exactly.
Because those are the people that generally are causing the issues as far as hypoxic incidents that unfortunately end up in either hospitalized or fatal scenarios.
Yeah. For sure.
That's generally where it happens. Uneducated divers.
What's crazy is those same guys, whenever they come into the class, are wearing like 12 plus pounds of weight every time.
That's what I'm saying.
It's insane.
They're uneducated divers. They do something because they think it's helping them.
Yeah.
Right? They're overweighting themselves because they think it helps them get to the bottom.
Yeah, I saw a picture of Mark Healy. He had a bunch of weights on. Well, those were all ones, which you're wearing as twos, and he's in a 5 mil wetsuit diving in California. Yeah. You're in the Bahamas wearing board shorts. Like, this ain't the same. It's freaking crazy.
Yeah. It just made me think, because it happens all the time, obviously. But I had a guy in the shop quite a while ago. He's from Andros, works at the Autech base there. And,
Last beer.
Beer run?
I might need a big beer run.
Works at the Autech base, and he's telling me stories of diving like 120. Jeez, that was loud. Loud, yeah. Diving 120, 150 feet in spearfishing out in Andros. That's like what he did. And he's like, yeah, but I came over here, I'm in the States. I needed to get some new weights. I got some, like all my weights are just old. I lost a bunch. He's like, what's your heaviest weights? I usually use 6-pounders. I'm like, whoa, what? 6-pounders? Like, what are you doing? It's like, I wear anywhere between 20, 25, sometimes a little bit more. It's like, wait a second. You're free diving or scuba diving? It's like, no, free diving. I pack on 20, 25 pounds. And I just jump off the side of the boat and sink feet first. Like, what? That's not what you want to do, dude.
Right. It's no doubt going to be easier to going down.
Yeah.
I personally would rather, I don't even wear any weight now. And I want especially when I'm bringing a fish that doesn't want to come up to the surface, towards the end of my dive, I want it to be easier to come up, not to go down. I'd rather maybe struggle that first 15, 20 feet and get down and have that elevator ride to the surface, especially trying to bring a big fish up.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, all growing up, I never wore a weight belt. None of us ever, when I say none of us, no one in my crew ever wore weight belts. Like, that wasn't a thing.
I don't think I ever owned a weight belt until I got my first wetsuit.
Yeah.
Except for, I had a weight belt for like a nylon one for scuba diving, and that was it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the guys wearing too much weight, it's lack of technique. They don't have their entry down, where that first 15 feet, it's going to be a little challenging to get down if you're not wearing any weight and you don't have a proper entry.
And what's crazy is you take the class and you'll be getting down 15 feet before you even start kicking.
100%.
Before you even start kicking.
If your first 6 kick cycles are in the air, you're doing it wrong.
It's crazy. I'll have people in class and be like, we go to the Keys and in the Bahamas, we like lobstering, and so we do some notes over time, like 15, 20 feet. I'm like, great, you're not gonna have to kick anymore. Like, your kicking is the thing of the past. And when I do my water entry, I'm wearing a wetsuit and no weight belt while if I'm in the pool.
Somebody said our volume was down.
Yeah, I've noticed that in past episodes. It's volume's a little low. It's probably because I'm not that distance.
Is that better?
There you go. I'll get a little closer.
There you go.
There you go.
So sounds good. What else were we gonna say?
It's a lot of good safety talk. I like it. It's my thing.
It's not. Unfortunately, safety is something that people just don't really talk all that much about. And like you said, in the past few years, the direction is going in a positive direction.
Absolutely.
But it's still something that people just like shy away from. It's almost like people feel like they're too good or too cool to talk about like the potential of you dying while doing a sport that you're really into. But come on,
I think people just would rather not talk about it and pretend like it doesn't exist rather than actually talk about it and prevent it.
Yeah, acknowledge it and treat it instead of just living in denial.
Right, be prepared and have things in place to prevent it, and have things in place also to be ready for if something does happen. Trauma kit, medical kit.
For sure.
Even something basic,
That's something I want to talk about.
Let's talk about it. I think that's
North American Rescue sells like boat specific trauma kits. I highly recommend them. D-Day, DEY/day. They do like marine specific trauma care, and they're all ex-special forces guys. I've taken one of their classes. It's freaking awesome. I highly suggest D-Day for training. Highly suggest North American Rescue for kids, and they're a little bit pricey. But it's like a Pelican case. You open it up, and it's all little labeled pouches that say like, I bleed. I'm puncture wounds, like all these different burns, like all these different deals. You grab that little sack, unzip it, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Tourniquets, all sorts of freaking cool stuff.
Another one, the only one that I really know of, I haven't heard of the one you're talking of. The only one I've actually am familiar with is Frontline Freediving. They have a little waterproof bag, and it has all Northern Rescue. It's got the tourniquet. It's got some hemostatic dressings. I mean, basic stuff that it's basically bleeding control, which is
key.
Is key. If it doesn't even have to be spearfishing. Could be shark. Could be prop. Could be, especially if you're going out, you're running, you're going to Bahamas, you're going out west end. I mean, medical care is not always right there. Yeah. You don't have to be an EMT, a paramedic. Something to at least stop the bleeding.
The tourniquet alone is insane of how effective that can be, and I think a lot of people are scared of it. But essentially now that America's been at war for 20 years, we've that like austere medicine, battlefield medicine has like trickled down to like the civilian community. Their experiences and their knowledge has passed down, and just tourniquets alone, it's been amazing, like how fast people bleed out and how easy it is to save a life.
Yeah,
I mean, you're a paramedic, so
yeah, absolutely. I can definitely
you're the pro
chime in on that. Yeah, they used to say, tourniquets, last case resort. And it is still your final step. But they used to basically try to prevent you from putting it on. They thought you only have, X amount of hours or X amount of minutes, and you're gonna lose that limb anyways. And now they're finding you can, stopping that bleeding is way more important than the circulation going to whatever extremity. So having a basic kit with a tourniquet, with some gauze, to stop that bleeding, you're miles ahead of the race.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, and like Cellulock or that combat gauze, some hemostatic gauze makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
As well.
Not enough people. I think most boats that I go out on, they have a medical kit, and if they've opened it, if there's anything in there, maybe a couple Band-Aids, but I mean.
And let's get one thing clear. There is a big difference in a first aid kit and what we're talking about.
A trauma kit.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Huge difference. You cannot buy a trauma kit at Walmart.
Or go to stab a
West
fish.
Marine, or it's kind of specific.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. One question I have.
Go for it.
That maybe you can help our viewers out, because you are an emergency responder. What's the best way? Because it's one thing to have the trauma kit. I feel like a lot of people get these trauma kits and have no idea what to use, what to do.
It's a great
What's
question.
the best way for people to learn how to use this equipment and how to respond to situations?
I would tell you to go to your local fire department. A lot of them have classes. I can speak for mine. We have, not only do we have community CPR classes, but we have stop the bleed classes. And it's basically a pretty, it's, $30, $35. And in a matter of a few hours, they're teaching you basic bleeding control. I mean, I'm not telling you go take an EMT course, although that's awesome. But yeah, go ask your local fire department, talk to them and say, hey, what do you guys have? I'm into this, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction. Some communities have it set up, some kind of a program. Stop the bleed is what we call ours, and we're teaching now all of the schools, the teachers, especially with recent events. Bleeding control is number one. So if you do nothing else, then learn how to stop the bleed. I think that's
it's a good place to start.
It's huge, yeah.
But my point being, it's important beyond just having the equipment. Emergency situations are called that for a reason. Most people are not capable of going into and reacting to an emergency situation in a manner that's beneficial to the situation. Most of the time, a lot of people are going to make the situation worse. which I'm sure you've seen that kind of thing.
I mean, what it comes down to is you don't want your first time opening that kit or using that tourniquet. You don't want your first time to be in the real deal, because
when
stress is
just got bit by a shark.
Right, the stress is going to be so much higher. So if you've even just taken a course, man, it's like taking a freediving course. You don't want your first blackout to be, trying to figure out what to do. If you practice it enough, or even practice it once, a couple times, you go through the kit and you see how it works, what to do. I mean, you're
one good thing that I recommend people do if you buy it, when you buy a trauma kit, because you should definitely have one. And buy one. Whatever's in the kit, like stuff that, maybe not buy extras of everything, but buy extras of a lot of the stuff in there and open it, look at it, mess with it, see how to use it, see what the stuff looks like. Like with gauze pads and stuff like that, it can be very beneficial on your own to know what you're already, like, to expect what's coming out of the package when you go to use it for the first time. Not that this is like any kind of formal training or anything, but when I was in Boy Scouts when I was younger, went through Eagle Scouts and all that stuff, and we put together a trauma kit for some of the trips that we were doing that were considered like more extreme trips, and they made us buy 2 of those kits.
Yeah.
One kit was the one that we brought with us. The other kit we took apart, took everything out, practiced with everything, got familiar with the kit. So not only were we buying one, we were buying 2 just to get familiar with it. And you don't necessarily need to buy 2 kits because they can be pricey, but buy extras of stuff that's in there and get used to it.
Yeah, or at least do a little bit of research. Open it, look at it, see how it works. Maybe watch a couple videos on what you have.
Don't open up sterile things and put them back in there.
They sell a lot of like training aids too. Like they sell training tourniquets. They sell they sell all sorts of stuff. But yeah, like that gauze, like is Z-fold gauze versus like a roll of gauze, like figuring all that stuff out definitely makes sense.
And just what to do with it, I feel like a lot of people probably wouldn't know what to do with a roll of gauze if somebody's leg got bit open by a shark.
There's Stop the Bleed courses. I haven't heard of those. That's an awesome idea.
It's a pretty new initiative. A lot of it's come from recent school events.
For sure.
So they're promoting it. I'm pretty fortunate to be part of an organization that's being proactive, trying to give people that training. And I think hopefully with the direction it's going, with everybody wanting to take freediving courses, the safety side will continue to grow. And the more safe we can make this sport, the more we can promote the safety aspect of it. I think the more positively the sport will grow.
Absolutely, man. And the course that I took was D-Day. I highly recommend it. I think it's definitely more expensive, but I highly recommend them. They did really good, and there was like in-water training.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. Sounds interesting. I'd like to check that out.
One of the guys was involved with the fire department.
Awesome.
But yeah, they're all ex-special forces guys. So that's cool.
And those guys know what the frick is up. Like, they've seen some crazy stuff.
I'd like to see maybe a small portion built into a freediving course on safety, on the emergency side of it. Maybe a little bit of first aid, bleeding control built into a freediving course.
FII does have a course. It's the Waterman Survival Course, which
I've heard
does
of that.
have certain aspects of that. I don't think it goes too.
It doesn't go too into it. The
That'd
Waterman
be the
Survival
perfect course
is
for it.
freaking awesome. Yeah, that they should expand that one.
That'd be a good section for it.
More people should take it. More places should offer it. There's not that many.
There's only one instructor for it.
Maybe
2.
No, there's a couple for the Waterman Survival. There's 2 levels. There's an advanced Waterman Survival. So I think there's only. I think Martin's like an instructor for everything, so I think there's only 2 instructors for the advanced. But the advanced is no joke. The advanced is like, it's a physical challenge.
Right.
Like they're having you like tread water and dive down, and come up, tread water and dive down. Like they're kicking your butt in it.
Yeah. And I don't think everybody needs to go that crazy with it.
No.
Like, let's make it realistic. Most people want to go out.
It's not going to hurt.
There's a lot of people don't have any safety precautions set up. Like, let's at least set like some basic standards, having some kit, knowing what's in it, knowing how to put some basic things on.
I think there's only a handful of bad things that can happen, and it's like puncture wounds, burns, deep lacerations and like neck trauma. Like if you come up and nail the boat with your head.
Yeah, you got props, you got shafts, you have sharks.
Yeah, so
basically
it's
about
really like one of those 4 things. So learning how to deal with those 4 things. I mean, it's pretty rare that it's going to be something out of the blue.
Yeah.
Out of the blue.
I have I went from a pretty advanced big Pelican case. Nobody wanted on the boat because it took up too much room. They called it my life raft. To now the frontline freediving trauma kit I have that's a little waterproof bag. I clip it up, put it in an obvious spot. Everybody can see it. I point to it. You don't want to be the only guy in the boat that knows what to do. Something happens to me and I'm the only guy that knows what to do. Hopefully you know where it's at and you know what's in it. And so I'd like to see that become a little more a thing.
I like what you said about contacting your local fire department. That's an awesome suggestion. Even if it's just a matter of them being able to point you in the right direction,
Yeah, I don't think enough people realize that you can just stop by. Like, they're there 24/7. You can stop by.
Dude,
and
fire. Okay, so I only know this because I used to work at an insurance company that was all municipal, and a lot of their clients were fire departments. And I used to deliver bids to these places. They're so chill. Like, you could just literally walk straight into like where the trucks are and stuff, and everyone's like, "Yo, what's up, man? What are you doing here?"
Yeah, I mean, stop by, let them know what you're into. Believe it or not, a lot of firemen are into spearfishing, and you'll be welcomed. And I wouldn't be surprised if somebody came by my station. Man, I'll take you in the truck and I'll give you a lesson. I'll give you a class right there. I mean, go talk to them, see if they have something set up. And
hit up Kevin Mehaffey.
There you go.
Hit me up
on Instagram. Soon to be changed on the Instagram to the Mehaffinator.
I don't know. He wants me to change. I'm sticking to it. Sticking to it, man.
Captain Mehaffey.
That's it.
Check him out.
He's a fire captain.
Your boy's coming at you with some hot fire on the gram.
Okay.
He's got some good videos, man. You got to get a good Instagram.
Finally learning how to video. That's a whole nother aspect.
That's a whole nother podcast.
There's freediving, there's spearfishing, and then there's videoing, and it's like 3 separate things that it's taken me I can't tell you how much video I have that is garbage because the angle was wrong, my battery was dead, my SD card wasn't formatted. I mean, it's
or just dead video of like you swimming around on the surface, or even just
missing
diving,
shots,
not seeing anything.
An embarrassing amount of times I have forgotten the cycle of record and unrecord. So I've been recording myself doing like my surface intervals and turning it off for my dive. I've done that like on half a dozen trips maybe.
I've finally gotten into it's a routine. Everything you do, I mean, it kind of has to be a routine.
Yeah.
And I really like the one touch turn on start record now that these newer GoPros have.
The new GoPros are amazing.
They really are. And as I'm doing my final breathe up, I'm getting ready to dive, I actually record every dive. And as I'm getting ready to make my dive, I press one button, I hear it cycle on, I forget about it. And when I finish my dive, I give my okay sign, I've finished my recovery. Now I stop my record. Yeah. And keeping the GoPro off, you're saving battery, in between your surface interval. And there's some more things you can get into to know if it was a good video as far as going through your footage. But yeah, I think that's a whole nother podcast.
For sure.
That's a good subject for another podcast.
Yeah, GoPro's coming out new cameras at the end of the month. So
it's gonna be like GoPro 7.
3 new
so
cameras.
Buy your GoPro stock now.
It's like $4.
So. I can't keep up. I can't keep up with the GoPros.
From like 80
they pump cameras out. Like I don't know how they keep coming up with something new to put out.
Yeah.
I start hashtagging the GoPro.
The difference between the old ones and the new ones is dramatic.
They're not comparable. I mean, but that's just technology growth in general.
Yeah.
That's not all on GoPro.
So we had talked briefly about it in the shop, but what's so you like the GoPro a lot better than some of the other options that are out there?
Not necessarily. I'm more familiar with GoPro,
okay,
which is probably why I'm more comfortable using it. I've used the GoPro 6 quite a bit, and I'm very, very impressed with that camera. I think it's an amazing camera. I think the Garmin camera is actually really.
I don't even know
really
about
good
the Garmin
setup as
camera.
well. Yeah, Garmin has a really cool action camera.
Really?
I've used
Is
the
it
Garmin
ready
a little
waterproof?
bit. I've used the Antova. That one, Intova.
I've messed around with a bunch of them.
So I've used the Intova and I've used the Garmin. I've used GoPro. The GoPro's the best.
It's
of those that I've used.
The highest image. We're talking about the 6 here. You know, previous GoPros, obviously.
I'm on the 5.
The image quality gets better and better every time, or every camera. But compared to the GoPro 6, as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing that really comes close. I'm sure there might be a couple of other options, but as far as a camera you can take down to 100 plus feet straight off the bat, like with a housing.
Oh, with housing.
With a housing. But the GoPro housings are easily accessible, right?
Right.
A lot of cameras don't come with housings. You have to get aftermarket ones for them. A lot of action cams as well. They're only waterproof up to 15 feet, something like that. The Garmin, I believe, is waterproof, and I know they make a housing. Pretty sure they make a housing for it.
When I was using the Garmin, it was in a house.
It was built. It comes with one, right?
What about mounts for that Garmin? I haven't checked out that Garmin at all. What about mounts?
They have plenty of mounts for it.
Yeah, so
as many as you could want.
I would like to check out the Paralens. I like a couple of features. I like the depth feature, automatic record. You start your dive, it starts recording. I haven't had a chance to play with it at all. Just talk to some people who do have it, but I like it's got some auto color correction on depth. And it has a digital depth readout. So I mean, you can see right there in your videos. You're shooting that fish. You can show how deep you are.
I think the Paralens is awesome. The reason why I personally don't like it is the mounting options.
Yeah,
it's mask only.
I have not tried it at all, so I have no experience.
It's mask only. They make a tether so it can go behind you, but personally, that seems like it would be more of a hassle than a feature. I know GoPro, they have some sort of market restriction on their mount, which is a bummer. Because that mount's so ubiquitous now that it's if everyone could just copy that little 3-finger mount thing.
So I love my mask. I have a GoPro mount built into on the mask. If I wanted to try Garmin or one of these others, I couldn't continue to use my mask.
I know on the Paralens you could not. Yeah, I'm trying to remember the Garmin. I wanted to say that the Garmin worked on the GoPro mounts, but now that I'm saying it might not have. But
what I do know is a lot of aftermarket companies make conversion adapters that go from Garmin to GoPro or something like that.
Yeah, I can see that.
The Garmin might actually use that 3.
Yeah, I want to say it might. It might be slightly different, but I remember looking at it and being oh, cool! This should work for everything.
Let's find out.
What's your take on perspectives? There's a lot of I shouldn't say a lot. There's a few. We got mask mount. We got side gun mount, which I personally don't like. I think it gets in the way of loading, especially a gun that's difficult to load.
Muzzle mount.
Muzzle. So are you talking? So one of my friends recently I saw he has a under the muzzle all the way towards the front of the gun, which would not work for my roller. But it puts you a lot closer to the action. You're really seeing it. I know
it's looks like it's probably the same as the GoPro mount.
Okay,
that looks like it would fit most of the GoPro.
That looks pretty legit. Is that the waterproof housing?
Yes.
Okay, I have to check that one out.
That's a cool camera.
That is pretty cool.
And it has a ton of metrics built into it.
That's what's cool. Acceleration, G-force, altitude.
You can see how
temperature,
see how fast I'm diving.
All kinds of stuff.
Videotaping planes taking off is freaking cool.
Yeah, and not that all applies to diving, obviously,
right.
But it's just a very cool piece of technology. Garmin is on point with their tech. I mean, they make some amazing stuff.
I'm definitely a Garmin fan. I will get on that Garmin status one day.
Yeah, they make a really cool dive watch.
Yeah, the 2 mounts though for GoPro that I like the most is the GoPro makes one called the Strap. It's a hand mount. I like that one a lot. That one works really good for pole spear, Hawaiian sling.
Okay,
and then
can see that.
Hammerhead makes one that's snaps on to pipe guns, and that one works really well for putting it all the way in the front. And I've used it on a roller.
Really?
Yeah.
Has
stuff ever gotten tangled in it?
Yeah.
Yes. But the videos come out so much better just moving it that
perspective. I mean,
that 100+ centimeters, it makes such a freaking difference.
I can't tell you how many videos I have completely put in the trash because what I thought was a great video, that fish isn't even in focus.
Yeah.
So I mean, I use the mask mount. I like it just because I'm hands free, but it's definitely especially using a longer gun, a 120. I'm pretty far away from my target, and that GoPro kind of shrinks that perspective down. So.
And just you lose the detail. You know, you can't see it as well as.
That's any kind of camera, I think.
My take on camera angles: if you are just trying to get whatever you're doing on camera, we're talking free dive and spearfishing or whatever, either the mask mount or the gun mount is the way to go. There's no other way to do it. It's the easiest, most versatile mount. I would say the most versatile is your mask mount, even though it does generally going to give you a little bit shakier, a little bit more inconsistent footage. I think it's the most convenient to use.
On that note, it's a great tool though to see how much you're moving your head.
For sure. It's if you're just trying to capture video alone and put out, some decent clips, that's the best way to do it. If you're trying to put together good videos, you need multiple cameras, multiple angles, because there's no other way to edit a video other than, switching.
I'm just gonna hire somebody to follow me and film me.
That's what it comes down to.
Or a drone.
If you want a good video, like look at videos that you like and break it down. It's all about new different angles.
Different angles.
Absolutely.
Stuff that people aren't used to seeing.
So on that, I haven't actually used the gun mount, but I know Tommy, he has the gun mount. I don't like how it's in the way. Although it is kind of nice how after you shoot a fish, it's funny how when you grab that shooting line, it kind of follows you. Mm-hmm. I mean, he shot a wahoo recently, and he got some pretty cool video of as he's grabbing that fish, it's basically filming him now. It's panning. He lets go of the gun and he grabs the shooting line, and it's almost trailing behind you now and filming. Where I get that same perspective on my mask mount, where it's only what I'm seeing. It's the different angles, getting to see multiple perspectives. I think that makes a lot better video.
Yeah. The one issue with mask mounts is that because you're moving so much, because your head's moving so much, yes, you are going to get good clips, but in order to edit that stuff together, there's so much movement in between
you lose a lot of it.
Matter. You don't have much time to pull a decent clip, right? So to actually have a steady image that you're looking at, like the fish or a person or whatever, you don't have a ton of time to get.
It's probably about 3 seconds, 2 seconds max.
Yeah, it's crazy how you look at something and once your brain gets the information it needs, you're already onto something else. You're not,
I didn't realize how much I moved my head until I started really watching mask mount GoPro videos, especially if there's some sharks in the water. I'm all over the place.
What a cool thing to offset that when you're editing clips, and a hunting strategy of mine is when I'm trying to shoot the biggest legal size fish in an area. If I go to a spot, let's say we go to Ass Crack, and I'm going to try to shoot the biggest legal size fish there. If that fish is barely legal, then so be it. But
so I've just been talking to your eyes. I can't see your face.
We used to always say if the big ones won't play, the little ones must pay.
I've never heard that.
But to offset
trademark.
That, yeah, right. To offset that,
ballast free dive.
I personally will videotape. If I see a hog that it's marginal, I'm gonna videotape that for way longer than I probably should. One, it gives you awesome content because a free swimming fish is way cooler than you sitting on the dock pushing a fish out.
Absolutely.
All the way. And I can't tell you how many times not only has that have I shot that little fish to see some other massive fish come around the corner to see what the commotion was while I'm dicking around with the little fish, but that little fish will go under a ledge and bump out something twice the size. So I'm getting good video, getting better content, better bragging rights, plus the chances of me shooting something bigger are way better. That one of the main reasons I have a camera is just to temper that bloodlust of mine of kill. Well, let's videotape it, see if I can't turn this opportunity into something better.
Yeah, especially if you take the time to go back and watch your videos. I feel like a lot of times I'm patient, I take my time, and then I go back and I watch that video, I did not take nearly as much time. I could have waited for way better of a shot. You know, it's great to go back and to watch what you actually did.
For sure. It's humbling.
It's frustrating
Yeah.
to watch yourself spearfishing. It's awful.
Yeah, especially when you shoot wahoo.
You have a couple clips, I'm sure, that are very frustrating for you to watch.
Don't go for the head.
Man. All right. Anything else you want to add into this one? We're right at about an hour.
So that'll do it.
That will do it. Thank you guys for watching this episode. If you tuned in live, thank you for watching. And yeah, we will see you in the next one. Thanks. Shout out to our sponsors real quick again. Ballast Freediving, Florida Freedivers, and Teach Me to Freedive. Thank you to Kevin. Find him on Instagram, Captain Mehaffey, at Captain Mehaffey. Check him out. Thank you for coming on tonight, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was fun.
No worries. If you guys want to dive to the Gulf Coast, let us know. We're trying to put a trip together.
I want to dive.
You're in.
All right.
All right.
All right. Later, guys.